All right. I see it.
Welcome to Wiretapped Truths. My name is Jesse Perez. I'm here with Mr. Wiretapped Truths Leland, our comedian Jack Simmons. We were just having the GOAT comedian conversation with Bob Spore, our guest today for part two. First time was a classic. We had to run it back, and then Bob, thanks for coming out. And for people that don't like people that's kind of keeping up with our show and stuff, me and Bob have maintained a good friendship over our AA bond, and we just
Yeah.
text each other. We text each other stuff, and so I love you, Bob. I
Stay
love to
connected.
have you as part of my network of people, and
Ditto.
I use that
Ditto.
line, without a net will fall. So Bob, yeah,
You're keeping me sober.
yeah, thank you. So we're gonna do the part two today because last time, we just had it was such an interesting interview with you that we wanted to bring you back, and I understand you wanted to start off with a funny story about a party scene and some cocaine use of a girl
Yeah.
that.
So we were doing three. It's either three or four. I can't remember what season, but it was a ghetto basement party, and I can't remember what the scene was about, other than I don't remember what the scene was about, but I just remember
I know. I probably know what it is. Was it Cuddy's coming home party?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Cuddy's coming home party, and P. Love Perry was in that scene too, and he acquired some alternate casting. Why is this doing that? I don't know why that's doing that. He brought some ladies for our casting, and some of them were authentic, and some of them were they were just attractive women, and but so part of that party, we had everything. We had beers, and we had drinks, and we had blunts, and we had and we had powder, and they wanted to see somebody actually snorting cocaine. Obviously it's not cocaine, it's a baby laxative, what we use for if you're going to physically snort it on camera, and that's old school too. There's other ways of doing it with other products, but that's usually, I think, vitamins, and there's a vitamin powder you can use. But so we would have a series of shots of this. We'd have a master wide. You'd see everybody in the room, and then and somewhere in the distance you would see this girl at this table leaning over with a straw, doing something on the table, and we would tell her every time, we made it clear. I said, look, we're far away and you're out of focus. We're not really seeing you do it. We're just seeing the straw go up the table. So you could just kind of push the straw up the powder like you're snorting it. And nobody's going to know, because we'll probably pan off of you by the time, you finish. And
so you took out an 8-ball and you're like, let's do this.
Yeah. And I think there was like a big pile next to her or something like that. And we, this was one of our Fuck You Friday scenes. It's the last scene of the day. It's on a Friday. At this point, it's probably we started the scene at probably 11 o'clock at night, Friday night. And we were going to be going into at least 6 a.m. the next morning. This is a long scene, lots of parts, lots of pieces. And we kept getting her in some of the pieces. And we would tell her, say, all right, you're in the shot. But, you're still a good distance away. We're not there yet where we're going to actually see you. They're going to do an insert close-up of you doing it. And so you don't have to snort it. And we kept saying this too every time. And you got to remember, there's multiple takes for each setup. You know what I mean? So if something just ain't right, or the smoke's not right, for the DP. And anyways, we finished like 6 a.m. And I had noticed that a lot of this powder was missing off the table. I can remember that. And I just thought it was, it either got knocked off or something like that. but because she would do the whole bit. She would draw from the pile and then make her line and lines, whatever.
She know how to do it.
Yeah. So anyways, we wrap up, we go home, and we're all beat, dead tired, and we get home, and of course, like I can't go to sleep right away. It takes me a couple hours to wind down, and I remember getting a call from Perry at probably like 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and he's like, "Dude, man, this woman, dude, she snorted all that shit all night, and she's crying and she's yelling at me. She's on the phone yelling at me. She can't get off the toilet. She can't stop pooping." And I was just like, "Oh my God, that is hilarious. That is so funny." And that was the case, it's just it's just hilarious. And
you should have got the part for that. I feel like
I'm telling you, she just because we're all dead tired, and Perry's like, he couldn't get to bed because she kept calling him because she couldn't get off the toilet. She was having massive diarrhea, and he kept he said, "That's your damn fault. I told you not to do that stuff all the time. You only had to do it 1 or 2 times on camera." So that was a little funny story with baby laxative.
That is method acting for like a new. That's a whole new way of like really getting into that. Did she get the part, or like what happened with her?
No, it was just a one-time thing. I don't think we ever saw her again. You know what I mean? She may have been.
Well, she was a background artist, right?
Yeah, she was background. She was total BG. She wasn't an actor, a cast actor. She was total BG, and I mean, we probably saw her again at some party or some bars. I'm sure they brought her back, and I'm sure I got read the riot act. She's like, "You're not giving me any more cocaine this time, are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So,
and Jack, you weren't here for our first part with Bob, so I'm sure you probably have, a few questions you maybe want to ask him that you maybe were thinking about.
Oh yeah. So wait, what scene was that? That was season 3, right?
Yeah, Cuddy's homecoming scene. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I think. Yeah.
I tell you what, does that actually do you think that stuff still happens today? I mean, or is there more like regulations for whatnot? Because did you guys actually use like
a lot of times it's I mean, I've seen all kinds of gags, all kinds of setups, to make it look like it's being snorted, with the like a mini vacuum or something like that, or but no, most of the times when you're seeing somebody snort that on camera, it's going to be either some kind of vitamin powder or some kind or like we use laxative, and or they cut it down with something that is safe, to actually snort up. But no, that's like I couldn't tell you what they did in Scarface. I'm sure in Scarface they were using probably the same stuff. It probably
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of Scarface. I was like, what the hell?
Or like Harmony Korine, probably like there are some directors who like go all realism and they do like actual drugs and nudity and stuff like that. There's that guy like
I don't know about actual drugs. Yeah. We never I've never had a job. Well, I won't say never had a job where never had a job where drugs were used, but I had a job where alcohol was used, and I won't say who and where, but that did happen a couple of times.
Is that illegal? Is that not part, or is that you're not supposed to?
It's an insurance issue,
right?
It's insurance. Yeah, it's I mean, back in the day, they drank all the time on camera. John Wayne drank on the camera, and he was already shit faced. But yeah, nowadays, unless
I would imagine the problem with drinking though, like, because I done student film when they were like, you're supposed to drink, and then me being the alcoholic that I got drunk, and they were like, we got to shoot another day. But when I saw some of the footage,
you're like, I'm ready now. I want to do this.
Yeah. This was like a Delphi student film, and I came back acting like everything was okay. I was like, "Hey guys," and everybody was like pissed at me, and I was like, "Oh."
I mean, but I wouldn't be surprised if Seth what's his name? Steph from
Rogan.
Pineapple. Yeah, Rogan
Yeah.
or any of those guys were smoking on camera or were high.
We talked about Dave Chappelle. He did that for Half Baked. He got like high all the time on set. And it's like in Fight Club, I think they also got drunk before filming the golf scene, like Edward Norton and Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
So is that stuff confirmed, Jack?
What's that?
Confirmed that they were actually smoking on camera? Like,
I think. Well, I remember I saw Jim Brewer like in concert. Like, you know, he used to be really funny back in the day. Now he's kind of.
He looked like he was wasted.
Oh yeah, that's part of his special is like, I actually don't smoke weed. I just look like this all the time. Yeah. And he said that there was one scene where he was in a trailer and Dave Chappelle was like, "Hey, let's get high." And he was like, "Okay." And then he goes out on camera and the director's like, "Oh, perfect. You're like, right, like you're ready for this right now." It's like, "Yeah, I guess so." So, but yeah, I think Chappelle definitely got baked for all of his scenes.
Yeah.
And I don't remember him in Half Baked. I don't remember him in Half Baked. That's
Jim Brewer.
That's what's so. No, Dave Chappelle.
I
don't remember him. Yeah, I don't remember him in that. I don't know why. It doesn't cross my mind for some reason.
I mean, the movie is what, 20-something years old, 30
like
years old,
like 30 years old.
1998. Yeah.
It was a funny movie, but I was gonna say, like, with me with the drinking too, though, I was gonna when I did see like the parts that they attempted to film, I was like slurring my words. I was like, you know, so I thought, you know, I was like, oh, that would be kind of hard to do, you know, unless you're playing like a drunk guy and you're supposed to be slurring, you know. But
watch Drunk History. You know, watch Drunk History sometime.
I gotta watch. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great show. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that last time. I gotta watch it. Yeah.
Did you ever see that, Leland?
Yeah,
it's like do you want to describe it, Bob? It's pretty. It's a great show.
It's basically like it's like two guys. It's either two guys or maybe a guy and a girl. You know, in a present day situation, sitting somewhere and having drinks, and they're discussing a period of time in history, and then it jumps to the actual incident of the history being performed by actors who are dressed up in period and all that stuff, but they're acting the same way that the people that are actually narrating who are drunk. So the people that are acting drunk like the people that are actually narrating who are drunk. It's brilliant. It really is, because it's hilarious.
And it is like you feel like you're hanging out with drunk people just because it's like all the rambling and just like going on and on. Like that's how I get when I get drunk. Although I will say I've been sober for 40 days today, so I felt like
nice.
You know, wow. I did dry January because I was like, I just needed like a change in my life, you know. And I might I might not always be sober, but I just kind of felt like good, so I just kind of stuck with it, to be honest. And you know, no shame to the people that can, you know, drink and be functioning like, but I just feel a lot better right now, to be honest. I probably wouldn't be able to like do this right now if I was drinking. So,
yeah. I was at a meeting tonight, and the guy said, you know, he said, I used to think I couldn't live my life without drinking. Now I think, why didn't I stop earlier? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, though. You know, it's like that's the thing. It's like, you know, it always matters today.
I wish I would have stopped back in '89 when I actually did stop drinking. You know, but I kept using drugs after that for the next 8-9 years. I would probably been in a different world right now. But you know, it is what it is, you know.
It is what it is. Can't live in the past.
Yeah. No, that's right. Can't live in the past. There's a reason for it, and it's none of my business.
So Bob, I want to thank you for sharing our post on your Facebook, our page, and getting our show out there. I appreciate your support of the show.
Greatly appreciate it, Bob. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you all for showing the love.
Definitely.
It means a lot.
And I know and I know you've
What are you
been
drinking?
watching it. He's drinking a 40.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
I'm quitting today. Quitting sobriety.
That was so funny. He's like, I know why he did that too, because he's like, I'm 40 days sober and stuff, and then like it looks like a beer bottle.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, by the way, this is root beer. You know, so yeah, thank you for that. And while you also like share the our post and stuff, you've also been watching the episodes. And you told me the Amanda episode had some topics you wanted to discuss. Voting and a baggy pants story. If you want to get into that, a better voter. You said that she made you one.
A better voter.
Yeah, that you watched that Amanda episode, and she said that The Wire made her a better voter, and it made you think of a memory of back when.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back in season 2, before I became the assistant prop master, I was just the prop third. Jim McPherson was the assistant prop master, and we were going through that time of, because 9/11 had happened just after season 1, and season 2 we were in the process of about to bomb Iraq, and I remember how the whole country was behind that, and everybody was gung-ho about that, and we were all under the guise of, they had weapons of mass destruction, and they were responsible for 9/11, and all of that was a lie, all of that was a ruse, to basically go into that country and pretty much take their oil, was the idea, which never really happened. And so a lot of us were just really on set, and that show and House of Cards, a lot of the crew, majority of the crew, is pretty much, I would say, liberal, centrist, and then there's a few kind of Republicans, people from the right side, and we were all hawks, man. We were ready to bomb away. But I remember a few camera operators and some guys in the camera department who were a little bit more in tune with what was going on in the back scenes and in the back rooms, because they were doing a lot of reading or they had friends. Some of these guys have worked in political parties and political administrations as cameramen, as doing camera work, and for whatever the job. And they were all like, "No, man, this is a mistake. We should not be doing this. This is all going to blow up in our face." And and they were right. They were totally right. And that was the thing I learned from that experience, from being sucked into that, getting drinking the Kool-Aid. And that's something that when I watched Amanda, she's talking about becoming more in tune with what your beliefs are, because a lot of us, like in my 20s, I didn't talk about politics. I didn't care about politics. I think I voted. I'm pretty sure I voted. But I always voted Democratic. And then when I started working in the business and working in a union, it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to be a Democrat. I'm going to vote Democratic. My father, which was odd because my dad was kind of progressive in the 60s. And then when we moved stateside in the 70s, he just changed into this Republican. And I don't know if that's because he was working with, NSA or the government or whatever, or I think he just became a conservative, and had that conservative mentality. And him and I would clash all the time. He would probably be a Trumper if he was still alive.
Wow.
Possibly. Yeah. I would hope that he would have been smart enough to see through that. But I don't know, man, there's people that I just can't put my finger on it, how they can not be aware of what's going on, getting themselves so sucked in. I think it's just really to be able to be taught a mentality, even as an adult. And this as a young adult, because you were taught what was wrong, what was right. But when you're taught something as an adult who may be going through whatever in your life, you hate your life, or you're not happy with what's going on in your life, and somebody comes along and tells you something that will fix everything, and you just have to think this way. And then once you go down that path, you can't come back, because if you admit you're wrong, you have this this fear instilled in you that if you admit that you were wrong and you admit that what you decided was the mistake, then you have to repent, you have to eat crow, and you have to be embarrassed and belittle yourself to be able to crawl back. Some people just will not do that.
It becomes their whole identity.
Exactly. I mean, and that comes from the man on top. That man has never admitted a mistake. He's never admitted he was wrong. I think one time he may admitted that something he did wasn't right, was the whole grab him by the pussy thing, because he got caught, with that. But even that, he actually said that maybe that wasn't my voice, So
that's the thing, is blame other people too. He did that with the video about depicting Obamas as the apes, last week, and he just said that was a staffer.
Nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it. The only people buying it are the people that are up his ass. Nobody's buying it. You post something at fucking midnight at night. There ain't no staffers working at midnight. You know what I mean? And if you post something that somebody just gave to you without looking at it, you're the fucking fool. Period. You're
the Republicans are mad at him too about it. It was a thing.
Yes, but there's still Tim Scott, one of the only black senators, in the Senate, actually believes that it was a mistake. You know what I mean? He believes that whole ruse that Trump's saying, oh, it was a mistake, a staffer did it. The funny thing though, the tell about how he really isn't, he doesn't stand behind it. And I don't want to get too drawn into this, but you can tell that he's not completely sold on this because of what he said when he saw that. He said, this is one of the racist things I've ever seen come out of the White House. That phrase itself, that means there's something else that obviously came out of there, so he kind of gave up a tell there that he wasn't totally, he's not totally in sync with this. He's kind of like some of the other guys. They're just waiting for this fucker to die, and then they can kind of find their way back, and hopefully their career is somewhat salvageable, but.
I mean, I think they're afraid also that they know their whole base, so they can't criticize him, right? So they're all afraid, they can't step out of line. And, I actually, the last episode we did, I don't think it's been released yet. I kind of started off by basically saying fuck ICE, and, and I think, it's now it's, everything is really toxic, and I don't know. I'm myself. I'll speak for I'm kind of horrified by what's happening. Fascism.
I am too. I'm scared for my kids, and the things that they were saying would happen have happened. The things he said he would do, he's doing. And when you have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene say, he's leading you into a civil war. That's fucking scary coming out of her mouth. You know what I mean? That's just but I don't know, man. I don't know where we're going. We're gonna, the midterms are going to tell everything. If he can't fuck up the midterms and decide on martial law and take over the elections like he's trying to do, like this whole Georgia thing. There's some kind of backroom shit going on there, that they're trying to make that as an example of elections are not safe and secure, and that's how they think that he's going to be able to stop the midterms, because that's the thing. He knows the midterms, they're going to lose their ass. There's going to be a bloodbath with the Republicans. They're losing the Senate, they're losing the House, and he knows that the first thing they do next year is they're going to say, yep, all right, this is it. You're impeached. You're impeached. You're impeached. You guys are all, you're all going to jail, and we're going to file criminal complaints. Of course, the DOJ is not going to do anything with it, but but another impeachment on his record, he knows that it makes him a loser.
Yeah,
and that
they'll probably have the votes to get rid of him at that point too, which
possibly.
He's afraid.
That's his fear, being removed.
Right. Did you watch the Kid Rock halftime show yesterday?
I watched him lip sync.
That Yeah, that was pretty sad. I saw
was,
one picture of him.
I watched the very beginning of that song that he did when he came out in the jorts he was wearing. That was another thing too, and just it was just sad. It was really sad.
Yeah.
And lip syncing wasn't even trying. He wasn't even
No,
trying to sing it.
you could see you could see the mic away from his face too while he was doing that.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally pre-recorded. Totally, you could tell like in the very first 5 seconds, you could tell. And then watching Bad Bunny,
I thought that was one of the top. I thought Bad Bunny was one of the top 5 Super Bowl halftimes of.
Just phenomenal.
Definitely,
it just represented every culture in there.
140 million views.
Yeah, and Jesse, I know you got to get out of here soon. You got some questions you want to ask Bob before you leave? Jesse?
Well, there was also something about on the Amanda episode that you said about when she was talking about the closing. And you said it brought up like a baggy pants memory of when you had like baggy pants.
I know that show influenced me in my fashion, in my clothes. When I first saw the gym pants, sweatpants that were like cargo pants. They had pockets on the side. I think it was Jean Co. or I can't remember who else was making them. Maybe it was South Pole. What's that company? South. Yeah, it might be South Polar. Were making them, and so I would hit these stores on the street, Monument Street, and it was like Foot Locker, downtown Foot Locker, and a bunch of other clothing stores, geared for basically the city, urban people. And so I must have had a half a dozen pairs of those pants, and a bunch of Echo shirts and God, I can't even remember. I think I've given half of that stuff away. I wish I had some of the cargo sweatpants. Those were pretty cool because they were really warm. And then you can
I have a pair of bright red, almost like Clifford colored Echo pants, and I love those freaking pants. Okay? Like, I know that the brand is no longer, standing or going on. I love those freaking sweatpants. Yeah. My wife, she tells me all the time, "You're not a young man. Those are young man pants." Okay.
Oh man. I don't wear red pants anymore because one time in college I wore a pair of red jeans and I had a red shirt on and I thought I looked cool. And I was talking to this girl. That's a lot. That's too much red because I was talking to some girl like trying to impress her. And she said that I look like a used tampon, which to this day was like the biggest roast. I don't think I've gotten it since. So I just don't wear red anymore. I'm just going to avoid that.
Have you used that story for material?
No, but it would be a good story.
No, that is a hilarious story right there.
I don't think I've ever gotten over that, actually. I was like, damn, that cuts to the core. Because I did, looking back, and I'm like, shit.
You got to talk about it on a set, and that'll help you overcome.
That's true. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you should do it while wearing red.
Right. Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing, Jesse. Like you have to be wearing red for this bit to work. Like
right. Dude, that's women though. They can cut right to the core and just fucking destroy your confidence.
Oh yeah, I got shut down when I was like 19 at a computer lab trying to talk to this girl, and she was like, "Can you please leave me alone?" Like out loud, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like so scared to approach a girl. Like ever since.
Wow.
Dang.
And,
well, fuck her. That's what I have to say.
The show did influence me fashion wise. Yeah, I'll definitely say that.
I wanted to get into cool. Last time I wanted to get into, but we ran out of time. I wanted to get into product placement. How does that work? Like, how do you guys do that? Does KFC reach out to you for like is that what Avon and Weebay were eating? And KFC, this all product placement.
Two different scenes in season 2.
Yeah, so KFC had to be a sponsor, I'm guessing, right? And then, like, when do you figure out?
Not a sponsor. They we're part of. So there are promotional companies that do just product placement, and they will go around to these companies and say, hey, we're going to put you in a group of, products that we want to promote to television and movies. Are you okay with that? And then the company will say, yes, but here are our parameters where we're not, to get a clearance to use it. And a lot of companies, you have to go after them to get them to get involved. And some companies will come to you and try to get involved because they know that the show's hot. So let's get our product on there. Let's get our beer or our drink, or our clothes, on the show, because we know that people are going to see that and they're going to go, oh, and then when they see the product, they're going to buy it. And the KFC, I mean, we did Tyrone's Chicken for a while. I remember that, which was a local guy in Baltimore who was legendary because, the thing was, and I remember this because we would buy that and just have it to the set to eat for the crew because it was some of the best fried chicken you could get in the city. But then there was some kind of backstory with the place where, you could go get 20 wings and a quarter pound of weed at the same time. So that place didn't last too long after the cops discovered what was going on. And don't quote me on that to be the truth, but that's what I heard in the streets.
It's great marketing, though.
So, yeah. Oh yeah. Great marketing. Get high as shit and then buy more chicken.
Right.
I think hip hop, what's that? Hip hop chicken or hip hop, you guys don't have that because you're in New York. We have this place, Hip Hop Chicken, I think. And there's fried chicken, there's fried chicken livers, and then there's lake trout.
Okay.
Have you ever heard lake trout?
I mean,
lake trout is a fish.
From The Wire.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, from The Wire, right? Yeah. So lake
I've
trout
never had it,
would
but
be a
I've heard.
sandwich. And it's literally, it's a fish sandwich, and it's literally trout that they grew in a lake. In a sense,
white
it's
trash.
captive, Yeah, kind of, but it was a city. It was urban. You wouldn't see lake trout out in the suburbs or out in the sticks or anything like that. I always saw it in the city, and Baltimore's where I first saw it. I don't know if I ever tried it. I may have had it once or twice, because we would buy food around the city all the time because we get sick of catering, eat the same catering company all the time for the whole season. You want to change it up.
Do they have good
Tyrone's
catering?
Chicken.
Because I was on an Amazon show as an extra, and I remember they had fuck you Amazon money, and they had some good catering. What was the food like that they provided at? Because I imagine HBO probably has some good food.
It was decent. It was movie catering, so it's a company that does what they do for film and television. They travel around the country, and most of them come from California or New York, they were always
Elena
Hispanic.
Muscat, right?
What's that? Well, Elena
Muscat was the
craft
caterer?
services. She was craft services. Yeah, she did craft services for us for years, and not just on that show, but I've worked with her for 30 years now. She was on some of the first shows.
I'm talking to her to get her on the. I'm talking to her to get her on.
Yeah, she's got great stories.
Yeah, she's doing film festivals now. She was she had us submit the podcast to a film festival. She's real nice.
Nice. Yeah. She was. I remember on The Wire. She was.
I gotta
service,
say,
she was also shooting a YouTube movie, a teenage YouTube movie. I think it was YouTube. I'm pretty sure that's what it was back then. At the same time, so she was going home and writing the script, and then when she got home at Saturday morning, like the rest of us, she would go and try to shoot part of this story. I think her daughter was involved in it.
Wow.
It's just amazing. We did that on House of Cards. We shot this thing that the Key Grip wrote and directed, which was called the Van Tales with Michael Kelly.
Man,
which,
I gotta say,
if I
you
could
guys
find,
are like the most supportive people, like group of people. Like even when me, Jack, and Leland met you guys, like I was like, you guys just like, hey, anything I could do, like, let me know if I could help. Like, you guys are so like freaking supportive. Like, we just love bumping into you guys and making friends with you guys.
that's cool. Yeah, it's the same with you guys. We appreciate you, because you're the fans. You guys are the fans. You know what I mean? You're keeping this alive. This show's still going.
And I don't think, Bob, I don't think it's going to go anywhere either. I don't think we're 23, 24 years in. Our podcast is what, 7 months, y'all? 8 months? It's not even a year old, So we're still uncovering things. There's still stuff that fans don't know about the show that they're like, oh, didn't know that. And just having people like yourself who actually worked on the show and being able to give some of that background information. It's invaluable insight to true fans.
We need to get some of these actors.
I got one more question before I leave. You wanted to talk about Candy Alexander on the corner, which we plan on. I was talking to the guys.
Yeah.
I was thinking of recapping that after we do season 3. Candy Alexander was an actress on there. Corner is a great watch. I actually watched it in rehab. Believe they showed us the corner. Because you get like some TV
and
time
we just lost we just lost TK.
Yeah, TK Carter.
Yeah, we just lost him.
So yeah, she was.
So Candy Alexander played Fran, the original person, the real person, Fran, who we actually had on set with us a lot of times. She hung out with us while we were shooting that, and a couple of the other real characters, like the real, what's oh god, I can't remember his name. Detective, the real smart detective with models. God, you know what I'm talking about.
Lester.
What's that?
Lester from The Wire.
Lester Freeman, Clark Peters.
Lester.
Yeah, Clark Freeman. So he was in the corner, and he played this junkie who had he almost looked like Popeye because his forearms were so abscessed. This prosthetics that he wore, but with Candy, my boss Mike Sabo was the prop master for that, and Jeffrey was on that, Pratt Gordon. And then Jeffrey left the show, and Jim McPherson came and took his place as the assistant prop master. I was the on-set dresser. I wasn't in props, but that was my first in way with Mike Sabo. That's where I got, basically into The Wire, was through him. And so I was working with the props department, just like the on-set dresser does. Like Brooks talked to you guys about, how him and I would work together all the time. The on-set dresser and the assistant prop master who's on set usually is like a team. We work together. Like I'll help him move furniture. He may help me reset some props, And so Mike was trying to figure out how to fabricate a scene where Candy is smoking crack. And there's lots of ways you can do it from a perspective of a wide shot, not seeing actually what's in the pipe. So it could be tobacco, it could be fake marijuana that we use, for some of these smoking pipes things. They make fake marijuana, and he came up with an idea. I think he got it from another prop master, which he took rock candy, clear rock candy, and he would break it up into little pieces. And Candy would put that into the glass pipe, and then she would heat the pipe, which would melt the sugar in that pipe. So that pipe would have not only it would have smoke. You would actually have a vapor from melting the sugar, and then you would have a blackened tar look on the pipe, which is what you would see if you were smoking crack. You would see it like a resin tar on the pipe, and then she would draw in the pipe as she was lighting the rock candy, which is kind of ironic. Candy Alexander smoking rock candy. The thing is that she had to be very careful not to inhale, because literally you're inhaling crystallized glass in a smoke and crystallized sugar in a smoked in a smokable form. which is the same thing that you have happen to you when you smoke cocaine. You're like inhaling shards of glass, because once it gets into your body, it cools from that form and becomes a crystal, and then basically you're inhaling glass. So she had to be careful to just draw it into her mouth and then blow it out, which she did very well. You know, she was on top of it. And so if you see the corner, you see her do that, it looks so real. It looks exactly like what you would see somebody doing when they're smoking crack. Wow. And I thought that was probably a really ingenious way of portraying that prop, that effect.
Were you guys like, did that happen beforehand, or did you guys like start that? Do you think, like, was that, you know, typical of crack smoking scene? Because I guess I never thought about like how do people actually do that, you know.
A lot of times it's if they use so she had a round, I'm pretty sure it was a round pipe, a bulb pipe, which is basically a bulb of glass. You know, it's what they use to smoke meth now. You could use it for crack, but most people use which is a stem, which is a tube, Pyrex tube. And then they put something in the tube, usually this thing called Chewy Boy, which was basically a steel wool, a type of copper steel wool that you use to clean pots. You would pull it apart. You would burn off the detergent that was already sprayed onto the steel wool, and then you would ball it up and you would stick it into the pipe, and that would act as a filter. So if you wanted to portray that, you could actually use tobacco, and nobody would know. You wouldn't be able to tell. Right. I don't know if anybody else has used that same process for a crack scene. I think most people will probably use the tobacco because it's a lot safer and probably nicotine free. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Herbal cigarettes. Herbal. Yeah, they have this fake pot that we would buy from this pipe shop. This head shop would sell this stuff to us, and it looked. I mean, that's what you see in The Wire when you see pot and bags or whatever, and it's close enough. That's what that is. That's that fake pot, and it looks almost completely real. And you can like actually smoke it. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why they would smoke it, but they would have it in those stores. Use that a lot of times. You know, if there's a scene, somebody's rolling up a joint, there's a pile of pot there, and they're picking from it and rolling it up. We would use that as that scene, or if they were using a pipe or something like that.
I think and I was like before CBD, I believe, right? Because
probably 2001, 2000.
Yeah. Excuse my ignorance, but I think CBD was like a recent thing, you know. So this is like
now, Bob, do you know in present day is that what they're using on set for? I know the laws are a lot less lax now, but is that what they're doing in present day scenes where they have to show marijuana? Is it CBD or is it still a form of fake synthetic?
It's not probably
synthetic, but
it's not the synthetic stuff. It's not the stuff that they're buying that actually produces an effect. The fake marijuana, I can't. It could be ragweed. It could be something. You basically need something that's going to turn, that's going to dry up and turn green. But I would think that they could now use the hemp flower, that they make CBD out, which is basically, it's just the hemp of the pot plant, and the flower of the hemp, which doesn't contain THC.
They sell that stuff at gas stations, like. You can here in Georgia.
That's synthetic. That's synthetic. That's the synthetic marijuana these kids are smoking now, which actually produces, it's like the whole bath salts thing. You know what I mean? It's that same crazy synthetic stuff that gets you high, but it can really, it can kill you.
It's healthier just smoke actual weed. Honestly, at that point, it's like you might as well just, it's just.
It's so easy to get now. I mean, and it's so potent too. It's ridiculous. I couldn't imagine smoking weed nowadays. I couldn't handle it. There's no way. No way. I'd be like very. I would only need so much a month. It's like break off a little tiny speck because that stuff is just stupid powerful now.
Oh yeah, I was with my dad a couple months ago and I smoked weed with him and he was like, "Holy shit, this is a lot different than just a couple of hit." It's like, whoa.
That's awesome. You smoke weed with your dad.
Oh yeah, that was a fun. That was my sister's boyfriend too. He came over for the first time. We were introducing him to the family and was like, "All right, we gotta make sure you're cool."
We're gonna
I
smoke some
guess.
weed.
So,
yeah,
exactly.
Really get to know you.
Just to test you out. Seeing your dad high is funny because he just has this goofy look on his face, but you just know him as your dad. So you're just like, all right, what are you doing?
That's
with
actually,
Candy Alexander mentioned, it's always with, we were talking about like Dominic West being drunk last week. And I always think it's like acting drunk and acting high is like a difficult thing to do because it's like, it's so easy for it to just look over the top. You know what I mean? Like it's so, I feel like there's just like such a subtlety to it that it's like, I don't know, either it's real or it's not. But
Dominic was pretty much on the mark most of the time. Sometimes it did look a little bit over the top. Andre as Bubbles was pretty good because he did a lot of research. He went out on the streets and he did a lot of research. He was really good at it. Bunk, Wendell was also pretty good, but he would keep it kind of more on a even keel, but he could still tell he was drinking. I think it was a couple scenes where he was pretty wasted at the bar. That they always showed up at that bar together. But I mean, half the background, they probably were high. You know what I mean? I mean, that was just smelling weed on set was not anything uncommon. It's not uncommon.
Probably super normal.
Because it's also those long work days. Like you probably have like 12 hours.
You're in the hood. You're in the neighborhood, and most. I mean, it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's just like most of the African American folks in the ghetto were really just smoking weed most of the time. Yes, you'd have your addict and you'd have your junkie, but a lot of times it was just like these white kids were always coming in town. We're always coming through the ghetto and scoring their drugs. I mean, that scene in Traffic. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Traffic with Michael Douglas. There's a scene in there that he's driving around looking for his daughter, and he's got one of the kids that his daughter was getting high with. They were smoking coke, and it's a great scene. I don't know it from verbatim, but basically Michael Douglas is just blaming this kid for getting his daughter into drugs. Blaming him for this his daughter. Basically, his daughter was abducted by the drug dealers because she wanted more drugs, so she just went with him. And he's just going on and blaming this kid. And this kid's like, whoa, back the fuck up. Tell me what it's going to be like for you if you're in the suburbs and you're in the white suburbs and 250,000 people show up in your neighborhood asking for drugs.
Shit.
What's that going to be like? You know what I mean? I mean, there's a dialogue there that's done a lot better than the way I just did it. But basically he turned it around on him and it was just like, whoa.
Right.
I never thought of it that
way. What movie is
never
that?
Thought of it. Traffic.
Yeah.
Traffic. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's true though. It's like
Beneficio, what's his name?
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio, he's in that. It's an odd movie because it's three different stories going on at one time, and all three of them have different filters in the cameras. So there's a different tint to the film. But it's so well done.
That's
it's really good. It's a really good. Yeah.
Steven Soderbergh made that, and he's always like using different types of cameras, and like he's a great director because even today in his different movies, he's always like experimenting. Like he made this mini series called Mosaic a few years ago on HBO, and
I've heard about it. Yeah,
it was one of those things where it was like a choose your own adventure kind of story, like a Dragon's Lair video game where you press A to see what would happen if Sharon Stone catches the bad guy. And he's always trying to like push the envelope, which is cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Wow,
very talented.
Now, Bob, Jesse we have these theories about Dominic West in The Wire, and I think there's some other shows where it's the same similar setup. He gets all of the ladies all of the time. Is that like in his contract, or what? Is that just his natural character, or like what about Dominic West?
I think I mean, from The Wire to like the movie Chicago, I mean, and he was in Spartacus, or he was in
300. I think, yeah,
yeah. I think it's the writing. You know, they just see him as that character. I mean, that's what David Simon saw. You know, and that's what Ed Burns saw. They saw him as that womanizer, Irish drunk. Deadbeat dad kind of thing. And because there was guys like that in the precinct, in the homicide department, there was guys they're basically, they're living day to day, paycheck to paycheck,
drunk every day.
And yep. And then, when something walks in the door, or somebody comes up to them at the bar, they're just going to go at it just because it's just another way to forget what their life is. They forget about how shitty their life is. That's I remember that one scene. It's season 1, I think it was. I can't remember, where he's banging that girl on top of that car in the parking lot.
Season 5.
Yeah.
Season 5.
And he shows them.
Season 5.
Flashes the badge when the people are walking by. He just flashes the badge.
It is McNulty. Yeah. Season 5 McNulty is a completely different animal than every in every aspect. He was out of pocket in season 5.
He was unhinged for sure.
Yeah, the cop to him being the boyfriend to him being a bad dad. Like season 5 McNulty that's a study in itself. Like he was on another
and
level.
he was on his way out. He was. I told you, it's like I remember talking to him in season 2, and he was like he wanted to be written out in season 2, because he didn't want to get pigeonholed like this. He was worried that he was going to get pigeonholed and he was going to get typecast. And he would talk to me. He's like, Bob, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be like this all the time. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. I get that. That's got to be difficult when you get typecast and then you got to do something to get complete. And that's why, if you look at his career, I mean, he's kind of all over the place. He does a musical, Chicago. He does 300.
King Charles.
He's got that show, and I've been so lost in The Wire for 15, 17. It never leaves my rotation, Bob. Like, it doesn't matter what new show, new movie comes out. I'm always watching The Wire. I've tried to be like, okay, Leland, don't rewatch it again. And then I find out something like, oh, Omar is a real person. Gotta rewatch it. So that's just what it's been for 15 years. But he was in the show, and I never watched it. I think I might have watched an episode with my mom on Showtime. He was a teacher.
Yeah, Fair.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, Fair,
it was good. The
Long Island show.
It was really good. Like, he's a phenomenal actor.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
he's a good actor. He can carry his weight, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him go through a lot of things on that show. On The Wire.
Even in The Wire, he showed range in season 4. He wasn't cast as much as season 4. I think he was working on something else. Season 4,
he
something
was
like that. Yeah, he wasn't on set as much. Even in that season, we got to see a different side of him, kind of thing. Like, in terms of the range and who he was as a person, and it's really different because he's really the star of The Wire in a sense. Other than the city itself, it's really the McNulty story, except for season 4, kind of thing. Like, it's season 4 is
and season 5.
Yeah, well, he's the backbone behind everything in season 5, kind of thing. That's how I look at it. It's on the newspapers, the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the newspaper basically. I mean, that's what they were trying to do, is basically have the newspaper, the whole Sun story, the whole Baltimore Sun story, and we had the director and actor from Homicide, who directed part of that. Who also directed the first, I think it was the first episode. He also directed.
Clark Johnson.
I can't remember.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was and there was a lot of really good actors in that season. I was really curious why we didn't continue, because there was more stories coming out of that whole scenario that I thought we could expand into another season, but David has said no, it's done. It's done after season 5. You know, which is like, why can't we have 9 seasons like Sopranos?
Yeah,
you know, that would have been.
It
awesome.
would have been, and you know what, Bob? I can't remember because it's been so long since we talked in our first interview. Have you thought about what a season 6 or season 7 would have looked like in The Wire? Because I've heard rumors that they talked about possibly exploring the Latino community in season 6. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I think that's probably that would probably be a good possibility, but I think there was a lot more with season 2 that wasn't explored with the Greeks in that group of people that you know, Boris, you know, the Greeks, the Russians, you know, they could have gone. That could have gone into season 3. Could have been more of that in season 3. And then
it's a phenomenal story. It's phenomenal.
I mean,
they're phenomenal. The Greeks,
especially now with all the, you know, the sex trafficking going on, you know, with all the human traffickers back then, you know, the Russian prostitutes and stuff like that. They definitely could have gone into a whole nother genre, and yeah, could probably make another whole season, you know, or a different show altogether.
I'm gonna touch on the Greeks, but just because you mentioned, I'll forget it if I don't say it. Just I don't even think it was 24 hours ago here in Georgia, in Cobb, they busted a big trafficking ring of I think it was 9 people here in Georgia.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it was. I didn't click on the story.
Sex trafficking or what
I don't know exactly, but I mean, I don't know, human trafficking in some way. I didn't click on the story because I was at work. I didn't want to cloud my mind, but I saw it and I was like, "Oh, this is." I took a screenshot, Jack. I'll send it to you. Okay. But it's so eerily haunting how some of the stuff in The Wire, like 23 years later, like it's like, damn, like they touched on this stuff 23 years ago in The Wire, like, and I do feel like the Greeks, if nothing else, for people that are like, hey, I don't like season 2 for whatever reason, which is ridiculous to me. It's such a masterpiece. The Greeks, that organization was so complex and so deep and so well thought out. If there was ever to be like a prequel of The Wire, I would love to see the Greeks organization. Like, I'd love to see.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Like, I wish that there was more of the Greeks in The Wire, because the organization was so massive. Like, they got away and it was like it was nothing. They were so connected. It would have made for some phenomenal, like a few more, even just a few more episodes of the Greek organization. I think would have been phenomenal. Yeah,
they cut short on that. They definitely copped short on that. And
was that David's vision all along?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably so much that was cut out of that show that we'll never know. You know, that basically, you know, in the writing rooms, they probably cut out a bunch of stuff just because they couldn't fit it in there. You know, into a 1-hour episode, and into, you know, 10, 12 episodes.
12,
that was
13.
The thing too.
I think season 2 was 12. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're only looking at anywhere from 10 to 13 episodes, you know, per season, and that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, because there's millions of stories that came out of Baltimore Homicide. You watch Homicide in itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you'll see all kinds of stuff come out of that. And that was the breeding ground for The Wire, basically. You know.
Yeah. I saw something yesterday, because we had an interview. I don't want to mess up her last name. Jack, you remember her last name?
Her name was Joy Kecken, Joy Lusko Kecken.
Yes. She was a
Yeah.
writer. Yes, she's a writer
Yes.
on The Wire.
Yeah.
And she was also on Homicide. And I didn't get a chance to ask her this question, but I saw online some people think that Homicide might be better than The Wire. Like in terms of, I don't know if it's because it was more seasons and just high quality television. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet to make that decision, but it's a critically acclaimed show in itself.
Yes, it is. I haven't watched it either. I worked on the last, the 2-hour movie after it got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And because they were like 22, 26 episodes, you know, that was all year, you know what I mean? That was a whole year of shooting. Just, it was network TV.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I wasn't interested in, you know? I mean,
you're
they
right.
They're coming out of the Hill Street Blues kind of like, you know, formula.
Even Bochco.
Like right on the edge of being cable TV. You know what I mean? Just, you know, a little bit of somebody's butt or a little bit of somebody's boob, you know, or a little bit of blood or a little bit of, you know, actual scene, you know, gunshot effects and stuff. You know, just almost crossing the fence where the censors are going to go.
Can't do that.
TV. Kids can turn this on at 9 o'clock at night. So it had potential. Now, if it would have been Homicide on HBO, yeah, that show
it'd have been.
Yeah.
Well, there's also more studio notes, I imagine. Like, from what I've heard from people that worked on like network television shows, there's always like the heads that go down and be like, "Hey, you got to put this in. What about this? What about blah 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 blah." And I think like The Wire, they had more sort of just like creative freedom, right, to just kind of go in their own direction. And
HBO didn't. I mean, the executives would come to set every once in a while, and there was a couple people that were there just to kind of keep, you know, Nina Noble was part of that, but she came from Homicide. She came from Jim. God, I can't remember his last name. He was a producer of Homicide. It'll come to me. And he, Jim Finnery. And I know that Brooks talked about it because he taught him a lot. And I worked with him on that brief show. You know, HBO would have some people that would drop in every once in a while just to kind of say, "Oh, you're on budget," or "Are you guys on time?" Or, you know, but a lot of times because of David and Ed Burns, you know, they were just the type of people that were kind of like, you know, just get out of here. You know, we got this. We don't need you to tell us, you know, what we need to do. What, you know, if there's something that's really outrageous and something, you know, that's going to cause a big stink, then, you know, because like when you guys were talking about product placement, I remember in the beginning when we were doing it with HBO and The Wire, we would worry about clearances, you know, getting things cleared, product names cleared and stuff like that. And a lot of times they would be on set and they would like, all right, let's get this product, where's the props at? And we would bring the props in, and we haven't changed the label, Greeked out the label so it doesn't look like the actual product. And we said, well, we haven't gotten to it yet. And they're like, oh, we don't care. This is HBO. Let's just go ahead and shoot it and they'll worry about it later. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that was the mentality for a while, you know, where we would just, they had enough money where they would just basically buy the company off and say, you know, you're getting on a great, you know, as long as we weren't beating somebody to death with a can of Coke, you know, they didn't care. You know what I mean? That was the thing. If you used it in a murder, you know, to murder somebody, then there would be issues with that's where you'll see products that are being completely Greeked out, completely fabricated from, you know, from a company that never existed because they're being used in some violent way.
Yeah, the funeral home we heard didn't want their actual name displayed in The Wire. The funeral home where they set up as their safe haven. I mean, they didn't want like, you can shoot here, but don't put our actual name in the show, kind of thing.
Yes, that happened with stores too, like corner stores. You know, those I guess you guys what do you call them in New York?
Bodegas.
Thrift stores.
Bodegas, yeah. kind of similar, but they're
bodegas.
just
Right.
they're just kind of convenience stores basically.
Yeah.
And they're mostly all run by Asians, by Koreans. And sometimes they would work with us pretty well, and they would help. They would let us actually use the store, and we would set up our own racks of products, so we wouldn't interfere with theirs. And they would let us go behind the bulletproof glass and all that stuff. They actually put actors in there and do the whole bit. But a lot of times they would want to change the names or Greek out the names of the storefront, so they wouldn't be, because that can lead to issues down the road. You get some radical Wire fans and they show up at your store.
Yep.
And I was thinking because they didn't want to.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna say I was thinking because they didn't want to like be associated with like gangs or whatnot too.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
but that makes sense too. Like I always saw it. Me and my friend had this conversation. Like a company never would want to use themselves like a negative way. Like, but then you ever like there's that movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, and he like gets on a deserted island. Like he has a plane crash, but he works for the company FedEx. I always thought, like, why would they want their own company to be used for that? I guess I don't know.
Well, they probably paid him. They paid him a lot of money.
That's true.
They needed something, and then also Wilson's. Wilson and Sports.
Yeah.
They obviously got paid a lot of money, but that was
plus
used,
it's memorable.
See, that was used in a positive way. You know what I mean? That was like one of the main. Wilson was like a character in the story. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how he survived mentally and emotionally, was because he turned that volleyball into or whatever it was into an actual person.
And people they memorize, they familiarize themselves like, oh yeah, like from the movie, and it probably drives sales. What were you saying, Leland?
Well, I had just two more questions for Bob. So one about product placement. The store with Snoop, when she goes to buy the nail gun, is that really a Home Depot, or is that a barn place?
No, it was a. So we have the urban hardware stores. They're mom and pops, like the old school mom and pop hardware stores in the city. And
okay, only reason I asked, they had the orange apron, so I was like, maybe it is a Home Depot.
Yeah, it's possible that we used a Home Depot. I don't think we did. I don't think we could get Home Depot, especially not a nail gun, because even though a nail gun was never used to actually kill somebody, that I can remember, it was used to cover up the doorways to the deserted where they were hiding the bodies. Which is that's all that happened. That's a true story. That's a true.
Wow.
That's a true. Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
That's not something fictionalized. That's actually from a case.
Wow. I did not.
Now whether or not it was like Snoop and Chris, doing it, what I mean, that kind of characters or whatnot. But these
the hiding the
guys
bodies of
figured
the
it out.
vacants is real.
Yeah, the vacants. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, and I know there's so many different scenes and characters that are deep rooted in truth, in The Wire, like and from actual scenes and stuff like that. As many times I've seen this show, Bob, I don't think I knew that. I do not think I knew that. Wow.
Although I will say no other product got better placement than Honey Nut Cheerios. That was probably the one most associated with The Wire. That was me.
That was me.
That was your idea?
Well, I don't know if it was my idea, but I loved Honey Nut Cheerios, and if I could get them in, I would get them in whenever I could.
You throw them in there.
I think we had. What's the company that makes Cheerios? Nabisco or is it General Mills or General Food?
I think it's General Mills.
It's
General Mills.
Yeah, we had permission to use them as long as it wasn't being used, in a derogatory way. So I would put that in whenever I could, because I would eat that. I would eat the product. I would eat the actual product placement. When it would come in, I'd be like, all right, here's a box. Here's a box for Seth. Here's a box for me going home.
One for you, one for me.
And
my makes sense. Question, like it's on.
My last question to you, Bob, is the last thing at least on your IMDb. I know you're always working on stuff. Was Captain America. Are you working on anything? What are you working on right now? If you can disclose it to anybody that's watching.
The last thing I worked on, which I think I talked to you guys about, was the fight movie. They Fight.
Yep.
That's the last thing I worked on. I haven't worked on anything since then, and that was
Wow.
that was November, ended October, November. Yeah. So no, there has been a few things here and there, but they've been either so low budget, whereas I can't get on it, and because it's the West Virginia has had a few things going on. One of them we had a problem with because of the dispute with the union, and then but it's slow everywhere. I mean, Atlanta is slow.
Yep, I've heard that.
New York is kind of, basically going, but it's not as much as it used to be. LA is slow. Pittsburgh is pretty busy. That seems to be the hot spot now for Mayor of Kingstown, and some other shit. And they're shooting up there. Maryland has a $40 million incentive just sitting in the bank waiting for somebody to come along. And we just haven't had any, solid. There's been some interest. There have been some bites, but nobody's been willing to sit down and open up a production office and start pre-production. So hopefully soon, man. I mean, I'm busy. I've got my stagehand theater work that I keep pretty much busy, but there's a like this time of year, January, February, a little bit of March is slow. Unless there's an inauguration going on, it's pretty slow. And so being a senior guy on the list, I'm lucky because I can pick and choose whatever work I can take, and I usually take as much as I can. I just finished 2 Broadway shows back to back, Wicked and the Great Gatsby. Did those 2, and that was about 9 weeks, 10 weeks of work. So so that gets me through the winter, and then our shed will open up in the summer, and then we'll have the arena, and there's talk of some other stuff coming in theater wise, and it hopefully, economy wise it'll be picking up. So, but film wise, I don't know, man. There's people that have left the business. They were in the business for decades, and they've left and gone to something else, which is pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, people are, I know there's like a lot of like tax incentives that people are leaving like LA, and I hear some people are trying to start up in Austin too, certain cities become more, Austin became like a huge comedy city too. So they're trying to get like film
New Mexico. Yeah. New Mexico is another place. And they're still shooting in NOLA, New Orleans.
Right.
But the 2 hubs are 3. It's Atlanta, New York, and LA, and those are pretty much the stalwarts that are staying pretty even. Even though Atlanta has slowed down to the point where the locals are taking over the work, whereas it used to be a lot of out of towners coming in who are planning themselves as locals, and then the locals would also come in. But now it's been so slow that they don't want to pay housing or per diem for anybody out of town. So they're just using all their local, which they should. They should all have first dibs on the work. But that's how slow Atlanta is now. So.
What's what made The Wire so great? One of the things is that like all the crew and the cast were all just, most of them were all, people from the city, and even season 2, like you said, it was like the dead of winter, so it probably was the only production going on. I always found that, I always liked that like most shows don't take place in like that era, because you think a show about the docks, you'd think like, oh, it's gonna be during the summer, but it's like, what is it like to work on the ocean
in the wintertime,
middle of fucking January? It's gotta be horrible. And they really portray that well. It's every character just looks miserable.
This past winter we've been having, with these sub-zero temperatures, which how it was that season 2 in February when we started out. It was minus degrees, during shooting half the days when we were outside, man. It's brutal.
You could see the
Wow.
character,
That's the
the
hard
actor
part.
was breaths a lot of the
Yeah,
in a
you can
lot of the
see the
shots.
cold air coming out. Yeah, it's beautifully
Yep.
shot. Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Leland,
That's all
you
real.
said you had like
Not digital.
Nope. My last question
all
was about the Bob's stuff he was working on. That was
Oh
the
yeah,
last-
no, I was gonna say, but you said you had like an ice storm or something, like Georgia froze
Oh
recently.
yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything worth talking about, Jack. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
minimal stuff. Georgia's not
Oh,
prepared.
my Florida friends
prepared
were
for it.
screaming. My
Oh,
Florida
yeah,
friends
'cause
were all
there's-
crying.
There's
They had to
snow
break out
there,
their
right?
buckets. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
freaking weird. You never think.
It's
Yeah,
fucking
yesterday
fun.
was.
Climate change. Climate change.
I know,
yeah.
man.
Keep
Man.
ignoring it. Keep ignoring it. Yeah, it's not real until it
Coldest
is.
winter in years.
Until it's too late. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Bob, man, we appreciate you so much. Thank you again for coming on, man. I'm glad Jack got to be a part of this one because I know he definitely wanted to talk to you. So I'm glad Jack got to ask his questions and sit down with you, man. We appreciate you tapping in with us so late. I know it's late here and in New York. I don't know what time is it where you're at, Bob?
It's like 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock.
Same
Okay,
time.
yeah. Same time. Okay. Well,
It's our
good.
first late night edition of the show. There we
Right.
go.
No, for sure.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we
Making
definitely
history here.
appreciate it, Bob. Like I said, if you have anything that you're working on soon, you want us to post the links in the description, anything that you have for us, please feel free to send it to Jesse, and I'll post it in all of the long form videos. So feel free
You
to
got it.
anything, anywhere people can reach you or hire you for your services, all that type of stuff. Anything you want people to know to reach you, and please feel free to give it to Jesse. Okay.
You got it. You got it.
So thank you so much, man. We appreciate it. Again, this has been another phenomenal episode. We would like to shout out our executive producer, Miss Donna Adrian.
Wiretapped Truths.
Wiretapped Truths. Yes, we appreciate it, Bob.
Click like and submit and subscribe.
There you go. There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
I don't even have to ask for it. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that, Bob. Shout out to
All
our
right,
executive
guys.
producer, Miss Donna Adrian Gibson. We love you. Thank you so much. Miss Debbie Young, we appreciate you as well. They do so much behind the scenes for us, Bob. So we always shout them out. We appreciate it.
Yes, you got to.
We're gonna let you go, Bob. Thank you so much. I'm gonna close out here, Jack. We appreciate it, Bob. If you ever anything, please feel free to reach out to us, man. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
Take care.
great week, everyone. See ya.
Alrighty, this has been another phenomenal Wiretap Truths. Thank you so much, Bob. Again, he's a phenomenal guest. We would also like to shout out some of our past guests. We have Mr. Kamal Smith, who opened the show. He has a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/DR8HCIRTV. Julito McCullum, you can reach out to him for the Wire hoodies. Go to his Twitter and DM him. He also has an album out called 33 Summers. Chris Clanton, he is actually doing a screenplay with Snoop, Felicia Pearson. Set It Off here in Georgia and in Maryland as well. So reach out to his IG for tickets and things of that nature as well. Nakia Dillard, who was in a few seasons of The Wire, is BMF as well. He has an acting class. You can click the link in the bio for his acting class if you want to learn the ropes of acting. He's been in a bunch of films, a bunch of movies, a bunch of shows. So please feel free to click that link in our bio if you want to get into the acting world. Please support Alonzo Wilson and his nonprofit. It is www.smprise.org. Also, Miss Amanda Johnson. She was the assistant costume designer on The Wire. She has a gallery in Delray Beach, Florida, and you can reach her at www.amandajohnsonstudio.com. We have, Mr. Trey Shaney. Please reach out to him on his website, shaneyway.com. You can get music, merch, apparel, all of his products. You can reach him there. Also, Mr. Andres Severino. He has a podcast called the Silverback Podcast. He was the police consultant on We Own This City, and we interviewed him as well. He also interviewed John Bernthal. So please feel free to check out his podcast as well. All of those links will be in our description. We appreciate all the fans. We have cracked 141,000 views, right at 142,000. So we are pushing to our next milestone of 200,000 views total. We appreciate all the fans. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. We've got some new Wiretap Random episodes coming out, some interviews that are unreleased that are coming out very soon. If you want to be a part of the channel on the podcast, please feel free to comment or reach out to us. If you want to book us for any voiceover or commercial casting work, please reach out to us or email us at wiretaptruce@gmail.com. We appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, Wiretap Truce. This has been another phenomenal interview, and we will see you all soon. Have a good one.